Welcome everyone at home, at Rogers watching. Welcome everyone here at Berkeley Bicycle Club in Toronto. Let's see, what treats do we have for you tonight? We have Catering is going to be talking to Linda Manzer. Addy Johnson is going to be talking to Travoy, Monroe. And Boyd Kodak, unfortunately, won't be with us this episode. He's on the road. So they're fabulous guests. I can't wait for you to meet them. Over the last 5 years in our show, we've had a number of drag artists be on the couch. I love the art of drag. So does a lot of people in our LGBT community. I think maybe because, other than entertaining, it is familiar, cozy, traditional, but also drag queens have been on the forefront of fighting for human rights. They do a lot of fundraisers. They do a lot of hosting different community events. So they do a lot of great work in our community. The reason why I like to have them on the show is, and our audience loves the same, is because we want to know the persons behind the personas. And our guest tonight is a lot of person behind a lot of persona. Since she moved to Toronto, relocated to Toronto, she has made a lot of impact on the city and has become one of the hottest drag sensations. She is Jezebel Bardot. Let's help me welcome her.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Love you. All right. So, darling, tonight is a special night for you. October 4th is when we're filming this show. Mm-hmm. What's tonight?
Tonight is actually the weekend of my drag-iversary.
I like that word, drag-iversary.
So it's my third year doing drag. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it goes by fast.
Yeah, you're still a baby, though.
I know. I'm a day old in drag world. So,
exactly. Yeah. You moved from Quebec here? Where from Quebec?
So I'm originally from a very small town called Mont-Tremblant, Quebec. Some of the audience and people watching might be familiar with Mont-Tremblant, beautiful ski area. Right. And but my mom and dad were in the military, so I actually grew up near Base Borden, right outside of Barrie, maybe let's say an hour and a half, 2 hours of traffic north of Toronto.
Oh, okay. See. All right. Well, when in Toronto? Where did you have your start?
I started here actually through 2 or 3 things. Mainly was through the Toronto Spartans volleyball team and that league. And so we had tournaments, and every time that there were tournaments, they would have amateur drag showing, obviously, you know. And one year I said, you know what, I'm going to do it, but if I'm going to do it, I want to do it well. So I got one of the drag queens here in Toronto to put me together, and I ended up hosting the night as Joan Rivers and ripped into everybody. It was a lot of whole fun. And some of those videos kind of went out to some of the local bars. And next thing I knew, I got some messages back from places like Woody's in Toronto. And they said, we haven't seen somebody do Joan Rivers in ages. Would you like to come? And I was like, oh, it's a bit of a one-off, but let me try it again. And I've been working in the village ever since. And the last one I want to give a shout-out to is Phil Villeneuve, who I went to high school with in Penetanguishene. He has a French night here. He's a DJ here in town. You can see him pretty much everywhere. But he has a French night called Tapette, and being a French Canadian, he offered me a stage, and so I took it, and I've been doing Tapette almost ever since.
Who influences your drag other than Joan Rivers?
Joan Rivers is the main one. The other one would be Dolly Parton. And of course, well, my name being Jezebel Bardot, Brigitte Bardot of France, who for maybe some of the Anglophone viewers who might not know her, she's a bit of the Marilyn Monroe of France. She's the sex kitten of the 60s, 70s.
That leads into my next question. There's always a story behind the drag queen. Is that your story?
A little bit, yeah. Actually, my drag mother is Divine Darling, who is a very well-known old-school black drag queen, actually, which makes Michelle Ross my grandmother. But what's beautiful about drag is that it doesn't matter your skin color, your gender, or your orientation, whatever. Your family is who you get along with and who really takes you under their wings. And so Michelle Ross and Divine Darling are that for me. So Divine helped me find Jezebel, and I wanted someone French to be in my name, so I picked Brigitte Bardot. I was going for Piaf, but my mom's name is Edith, like Edith Piaf, so I didn't want to be named after my mother. That'd be weird.
You have a couple of titles and pageants under your belt, or should I say your sash?
Sure.
Okay. You don't have it on today. What have you been awarded so far?
What have I been awarded? What have I earned? That's the question.
All right.
Because I earned nothing in this community and nothing in the world. You just
beautiful.
No, I'm totally kidding.
Sentiment.
I'm kidding.
I like that.
But well, there's the first thing was Cruise and Tango's drag race.
Okay.
So that was season 6. So we just actually last weekend crowned a new winner, and I'm the current Miss El Convento Rico. So I'm so proud of that because that's a bar that's been around for 26 years. Yeah. And when I competed the first time, I was 4 months into drag, and a lot of people saying, "Oh, the makeup's not the greatest. You're not the greatest drag queen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." And when I competed in Miss Rico's this year, I'm the only competitor who went in. I did my own makeup. I planned my entire package, everything together, and I beat a lot of personal demons that night, and I ended up leaving with the crown, and I did it. I had some help, but makeup and all the things that people were knocking me on, things that I had to improve, I did it myself, and I took the crown from some pretty prestigious
She deserves an applause here.
Yeah. Very happy.
Good. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Is drag a hobby or is it a career?
Well, it's a hobby, but really quickly it turned into a small business. Really, that's what it is.
Oh, wow.
It's a small business. It started as really an outlet. You know, I was a gymnast at the time, and that's a very creative sport. And, you know, I'm 31 now, so I stopped gymnastics at 25, 26. Okay. And what was gymnastics was a way for me to push myself and for me to be creative and to have personal goals to chase. And that was missing in my life for a few years. And then when I started doing drag, I realized that drag kind of replaces that because it's an individual sport in the sense that you learn new skills, you learn routines, you learn, you know, something dramatic and creative. And I've been having a whole lot of fun with the process. And over the years, it's an investment because it's very expensive, the clothes, the jewelry, the hair, the makeup, everything. But once you make that back up and you start to get booked and working, it's been fun. So tonight I'm volunteering a lot of times for shows. So I'm still able to do some volunteer shows. But when I get the money, I put it to a good place, and it's been very helpful. It's a small business.
I like how you look at your drag.
Yeah,
absolutely. Good.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to take a little break, everyone, and we will be back with the lovely Jezebel. So we'll see you shortly. All right. Yay.
Hi, everybody. Kat Grant here, and today I'm very honored to have guitar goddess Linda Manzer here. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for asking me.
Now, the actual term is luthier.
Correct.
Can you tell everybody what that means?
Luthier is a stringed instrument maker. It's derived from the word lute. So I am a stringed instrument maker, and I specialize in making guitars.
Tell everyone how you got involved with starting to create guitars.
When I was a teenager, I went to a Joni Mitchell concert at Toronto Island, and she was playing a dulcimer, which is a lap instrument. It's an Appalachian instrument. I wanted to be a little mini Joni Mitchell. I went to the Toronto Folklore Centre to buy one, and it was $150, which I didn't have. And the fellow at the store talked me into buying a kit, which was half the price. So I went home with the kit, and I ended up making this first instrument, and the magic of having a musical instrument come to life, putting strings on it, the bug bit, and 50 years later, here I am.
So no other career for you?
I was a kind of a failed folk singer, and I went to a couple of art colleges, but I ended up not pursuing my job as a painter. I wasn't really that fantastic at it, so I found my calling.
Yes, you did, and you were trained by some great people.
I was very fortunate. The universe connected me with my first teacher, which was Jean-Claude Larrivée. So I studied with him in the 70s and went out on my own. And then in 1981, I was very fortunate to also study with an archtop guitar builder named James D'Acquisto in Long Island, New York. And I studied with him over the course of about 6 months. And I mean, they were two of the best teachers I could have possibly crossed paths with. So I'm very fortunate.
So do you play guitar yourself?
I play pretty badly, I think. I mean, I play well enough. I used to be much better at it. Actually, was quite accomplished at one point, but I find if I start playing guitar, I end up noticing I've spent 5 minutes in silence just staring at the guitar, looking at how the wood is, joined and the lacquer and how the action is. And I'm so distracted by the actual object that the music sort of goes out the window. So I just enjoy my customers.
You also called yourself a fixer.
Yeah, I think a really big part of making a musical instrument is knowing how to fix problems. Because you're constructing something out of wood and you're gluing things together that are under a tremendous amount of physical pressure, and what you're trying to do is make it sound good. So this balance between, it being sensitive but also being strong and sturdy.
You've made guitars for people that we recognize: Pat Metheny, Santana, Paul Simon, Bruce Cockburn, lots and lots of people. What was your favorite guitar to make?
The most challenging and what ended up being my favorite was the Picasso guitar, which I made for Pat Metheny, which has 42 strings, 4 neck sections, and made that in 1984. And I guess at the time I didn't understand that guitar was going to sort of follow me around for the rest of my career. So that has actually ended up being one of my favorite instruments. But I love each one. They're like,
I had the pleasure of seeing you start creating the Lauren Harris guitar. Can you tell everyone about what happened there?
Yeah, the Lauren Harris guitar, I actually worked with the original 6 apprentices, and Jean Larrivée to do a project called the Group of 7 Guitar Project with the McMichael Gallery, and each one of us made one guitar dedicated to each one of the Group of 7 painters, and I was very fortunate to have Lauren Harris. So I made a guitar that kind of looked like if Lauren Harris had built a guitar, this is what he might have built. Or the other way was if one of his paintings had morphed into a guitar, that's what it would look like.
Amazing work.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. Would you tell everybody, please, where they can find out more about you?
My last name, manzer.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming. It was a real honor.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back, everyone. We are with the lovely Jezebel. Your real name is Jason. We got to hear that. Your study and your work. What are you doing these days?
So, I studied at Laurentian University all the way up in Sudbury, and I went there and I did an undergrad in sports psychology, a master's in sports psychology, and I have my B.Ed, so I work in education nowadays. So.
You launched an anti-bullying initiative at your school. You work with the police. You work with mental health.
Right.
You care about safety in school. Do we need safety in our schools? Is that a problem?
Absolutely. I think it's an ongoing thing. And, you talk to your parents or I talk to people, there's always been issues as long as there's been schools. But, I started my career as a physical education teacher. Okay. And I moved here 6 years ago when I got my work as a vice principal. And now I work at the school board, at the board level, as a consultant for school safety and inclusivity. Wow. So it's really great. So the initiative that you're speaking of, actually, that came in 2013 or in 2012 with Bill 13, which is a bill that the Liberal government brought in to make sure that, regardless if it was a public board or a separate board, that all our high schools would have GSAs, so gay straight alliances, and would be able to have spaces for queer and gay students. And the way that it was worded, it still allowed for maybe some kind of some boards to perhaps not push, and to have this space quite as much as it had to be a student-led initiative. So where I pushed in, I work for the French Catholic Board, is I said, gay people already have enough barriers to go through as it is. So if you're a gay student coming out and you also have to create your very own gay straight alliance, that's a lot of barriers to go through. I thought that all our high schools should already have them, so that way if a student has to come out, they already have a space that's already safe. They don't have to create that for themselves, right? So I really pushed for that. And to be honest, a lot of people love to smack around the Catholics and the boards and whatever. I go to work with my nails on. I don't go in drag, but I go to work as Jason, as the gay guy that I've always been, and I've been very accepted at work, and I couldn't be happier to work for that Catholic board. So yeah.
Let's switch to something else that you love to do. You are a big sports aficionado.
Yeah.
We just heard that. You're involved in a lot of different things. Tell us what you're involved in these days.
Well, I'm involved with a TSVL, which is the Toronto Spartans Volleyball League, and with NAGVA, the North American Gay Volleyball Association. So I'm the Canadian rep for NAGVA. And actually, I have 17 people from the U.S. coming in for a mid-year meeting, and that's where we plan. This is a league that goes over 5,000 people across the USA, Canada, Mexico, and Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And what we do, the kind of work, what's really great about volleyball, being a gymnastics is not a life sport. You're done at in your 20s.
Okay.
But what's great about volleyball is that you can still compete even though you're in your 40s or 50s, and you can go on. You absolutely can. The levels are a little bit different, but I mean, it's a life sport. And what's great with gay volleyball specifically, or LGBTQ volleyball, is that oftentimes, especially the older folks, people who are in their 40s and 50s, they don't always have the best experience with their phys ed teachers and with gym. And what I've been getting so much out of Toronto Spartans Volleyball or NAGVA is that, I'll have people who are well into their 40s and 50s and finally win a medal at something, and they're 40 and 50 years old, and they say, this is the first time I've ever won a sports or a team medal in anything. And it's a great space for everybody to be part of, and it's a great sport that a lot of people can practice.
You kind of touched on what I was just going to ask you.
Sure.
It's being in sports is not a positive experience for everybody in the LGBT community.
No.
What happens? What is the problems with sports?
And growing up being a kid, you just have to be extremely resilient, because I remember being a gay kid in high school, and I don't know where this courage came from. Maybe my father and my family, who's always been very supportive of me, but that locker room banter, I remember being in high school and people saying, there's this gay guy in the change room, and it was, you had to kind of, fight back and have that tough skin. However, you really realize that sport can really build you up, and regardless if it's a team sport or an individual sport, there's a lot to take out from. You have to know, obviously there's that toxic masculine sport culture that does exist. However, if you're able to, call it out when you need to, but if you're also able to get through it and to build yourself, you'll get a lot of respect from people for being able to overcome.
So what advice would we give? Find yourself a safe environment and work your way into it?
And it's also the best advice that I could give is to expect to have to deal with a little bit of bull crap. You actually have to a certain level, but when you feel unsafe, make sure you talk to a peer, talk to an adult, talk to somebody that's there. And I think the world is awakening on this. We're not going to see it so swift under the rug as we've seen in some high-profile cases. I don't think so. But be expected to deal with some bull crap, but at the same time, surround yourself with people who will support you.
Beautiful advice. Thank you. We're going to take a little break again, and we will be back with the lovely Jezebel, so don't go away.
So we're here today on the couch with my awesome guest, Travoy, TKO Monroe. He is a community leader and a youth activist and a youth group leader. So we're just going to head over to Travoy, get to know him a little bit and what he does here in Toronto and why he does what he does here in Toronto. So we want to talk first about the Kiki Ballroom. It's growing, it's getting bigger, and you're well involved in that. So tell me more about your involvement and why you got involved with it.
The Toronto Kiki Ballroom Alliance, also known as the TKBA, I got involved because a friend of mine forced me to get involved, I guess. But I understood the need for it, so I had no problem with being dragged along for the ride. And now 8 years later, we're thriving still, surprisingly, because we didn't think that it would grow to what it is now. Again, it started as a need for, I guess, community that we felt that was lacking amongst ourselves, amongst us black gays, us black gay youth, I should say. And some of us are no longer youth, per se, but we're still involved because the need is still there at the end of the day. We have our functions once a month, sometimes even more. Now we have a council, and I sit on the council as the chair, and I guess my job is to ensure and make sure that there's a space or spaces and places for us to be ourselves.
So your youth group that you do out in Scarborough, it's not downtown, which is, I commend you, because most youth groups are focused around the downtown core and the youth in the community down here, but the outer community is like kind of left to the side. So tell me about that. How long have you been doing that, and what's the impact and benefits of that?
So I used to be in a program, as a matter of fact, I still mentor in the program, but I used to be in a program called Sweet Life, Arts for Youth, and it's basically a performing arts program. It's sort of where I got my start in terms of my lifestyle now. And once it ended, I mean, I participated, I was a member for umpteen years, and her name is Denise Matthews. It was her program, and she is my mentor now. And she wanted to start a program out in Scarborough. So we sort of moved the program, shifted it kind of in Scarborough, but it wasn't as effective because it was during the week as opposed to on a Saturday that it happened. So from that, it grew into the idea of having a yearly festival. We came together, we wrote the grant, and we got the money from the government, and we had our first one, and from that it sort of picked up, and 8 years later, every summer, 8 summers later, we just had our last one this year. We have a festival. It involves the community. It's not specifically LGBTQ related. It's more so youth related, but there are definitely some LGBTQ youth that come out and participate. And yeah, it's definitely shown us, or as you said, like the fact that it's not downtown or centered around downtown, it makes such a difference because life out in Scarborough is definitely not the same. So yeah, it's different, but also again a need, and I support, and it's important.
Thank you, Travoy, for being here with us on the couch, and we're gonna head right back over to Antoine.
Hello, we are back, audience, and we have Jezebel Bardot here. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about your family for a sec there. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more.
So I have a father who was in the military and a French-Canadian mother. Well, both of them are French-Canadian, obviously, from a small town just north of Quebec. And then I have a big brother. So the best story I can say about my father and acceptance is that you'd think, he's a big rah-rah military guy. But at the same time, I mean, I remember being a young guy with my brother in like a shopping mall somewhere, and we saw a very colorful person, per a cross-dresser of some sort. My brother kind of threw a comment, and my father said, in the most vicious way ever to my brother, he says, I need you to go and apologize to that person right now for saying this under your breath. And he says, that could be your brother, that could be your uncle, that could be somebody. So I knew from a very, 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 very young age that my father was very accepting.
Well, it's a wonderful thing that you've had a positive experience.
Yeah, I'm lucky.
Supportive family. We are. I'm lucky myself too, but that's not common in our community. There's a lot of our brothers and sisters, gay, lesbian, and trans, who don't have that experience. What do we say to them?
Well, it's funny because even this year during Pride, I had the chance to work with Google, and family was their theme to talk about because it's such a contentious issue for the LGBT community. And for someone like me who has the privilege to have a mom, a dad, and a brother who are my biggest fans, they come to my shows, they always, ask questions. Where I think we need to be better is that for a lot of people, a lot of gay people and people in the LGBT community, is that we're a lot of times each other's family, and we have to be better for one another. It's so easy, and I find politics perhaps divides us a lot. There's a lot of contentious issues that divide us, but we have to be.
I was going to cry.
But we just have to be so much more patient with one another.
How about your family life now? You're married?
I'm not quite there yet, but I've been with my boyfriend Richard it's going to be 6 years in January. Nice. So it's been fabulous. Nice. I'm enjoying myself. And we're in the process, actually, of buying a home.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Is there marriage on the horizon?
After the home.
Okay.
That's
we're all invited.
You gotta get the house first.
Everybody at
right?
home, you're invited to Jezebel's wedding.
Correct.
That actually includes our official interview, but we always finish with some quick questions.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, so let's do your quick questions.
Here we
Favorite
go.
cuisine?
Italian.
Favorite drag-themed movie?
The Birdcage with Robin Williams.
My favorite too. I always put it on when I need to relax.
It.
RuPaul Drag Race, yay or nay?
Well, I'm hosting tonight for those girls, so I'm going to say yes and no. Depends on the situation, but that's a whole other segment.
All right.
Yes, but yes, of course.
When in boy clothes, boxers or briefs?
Panties. It's quicker to get changed if you need to.
Favorite vacation spot?
Anywhere in Canada.
Wow.
To be honest, I went to Quebec
true
City.
Canadian.
I went to Quebec City at -40 for New Year's last year, and I had a blast. I love Quebec City or anywhere in Canada.
And last words to our LGBT community?
Well, you know what? This is a time that's really interesting. We're in something that's really great right now. Something that often also the political climate right now, not only in the U.S. but here, is very divided. I think we just have to be patient for one another, and like we spoke on that family point, we really have to be patient. And inclusivity is inclusivity, regardless who you are, how you think, what you are. I just think we have to be much more patient with one another.
And a last goodbye to our viewers?
Well, merci, à bientôt, and who knows when our paths will cross.
Beautiful.
So.
I love you.
Mwah.
All right. So, there you have it, everyone. The second episode of our 5th anniversary season. Also, remember, we want to hear from you. So, you can write us on Facebook. It is facebook.com/join us on the couch. With that, don't ever forget, it's all about love, and we love you. Take care of yourselves.